real quick, because I think that James has a question for you.
Very quick question. Thanks so much, Kirk. I'm thoroughly enjoying listening to you. Um, I, without violating any security clearances or classified details, could you put us in the room with a firsthand witness and describe what it felt like and what the expressions of other potential senators that may have been there, again, no names, what it was like to listen from a potentially firsthand witness? Can you put us in the room and tell us what the atmosphere felt like?
Well, James, I don't think in a way that it's very hard to imagine. It's certainly I speak to myself. What was going through my mind is shock and kind of reeling. It's a tough thing to get your mind around, and to be confronted with it. Coming from another person whom you find credible based on their credentials and their clearances and their background and all that. It certainly it makes it hard to go to sleep at night. Um, for a good while.
And what
Um,
did the senators, did they have a sort of slack-jawed appearance as well, or was it just
uh, no, I mean, I don't think any of us fell on the floor, in anguish or anything, but it was very serious and very sobering, and there was, just rapt attention to what was being said and trying to absorb it. But yeah, they would take this information on board.
did you get the impression that these individuals were scared?
Well, it varied. Certainly, in some instances, I mean, some people, there was real fear. Yes, there was real anxiety about speaking out what they had to say. Yeah,
For their
it was very
careers?
disturbing to them. Yeah.
Very disturbing to them, yeah, okay. So in other words, they believed that there would be dire consequences, or that there could be dire consequences for sharing this information? Is that sort of the impression you got?
Certainly, there was no mistaking that. They made that perfectly clear what they felt like the stakes were for them. But I also think that there was an element of for them of having it just cross their lips in a setting like that. To say what they had to say. It was sort of momentous for them, I think, as well. So in a way, I think it was if anything harder for them to be saying these things than it was for us to hear it, maybe.
It's like a weight off their shoulders almost.
Um, Sure, James. I think there was an element of that. Yeah, I would say that there almost certainly was an element of that. I haven't really thought about that before, but now that you mention it, yeah, I would say yeah.
Mm. And when you came home and saw your friends and family, do you feel like you couldn't, obviously you can't, was it a burden for you?
Yeah, it's a burden for me. In some ways it feels kind of lonely, and it makes you really wonder what the future holds. It is. It is also the case that, like, as I'm talking to the people at this attending this event, there's a lot that I feel and have always felt can be shared about it in broad terms, and the like. And believe me, when I first started talking to my wife about this, it was, it was like I was watching her eyes carefully to see just how crazy she thought I was, uh, and and so and I will say that I could see flashes going across her mind, is like, oh my God, after all these years, did I really marry the guy from A Beautiful Mind? Uh, so yeah, it's I mean, I'm sure everybody who has come to accept the reality of this has been through a similar experience. um, it's like, holy God.
Yeah. Yeah, but so you kind of came to that conclusion on the inside, and I kind of came to that conclusion on the outside, right? So my field investigations is what led me to believe David Grush was telling the truth, not just because David Grush testified under oath to a bipartisan group of lawmakers, but it aligned with my research in the field.
James, I get that, and certainly there is a difference, but you know it's not fundamentally different. Um, you know, so much of, I mean, would I have believed these people if that was the only source of information about this? I think the answer is it would have been much more difficult to push the I believe button if not for this mountain of external evidence, which is the stuff that you have waded through yourself and produced some of it, right? Uh, there's just so much out there to consider, to evaluate, to weigh, and to factor that into, how you respond when someone is telling you face to face that they have inside knowledge of this. I mean, after all, there have been books written by people claiming the same thing, right? Claiming inside direct firsthand knowledge, right? I mean, Philip Corso, there's lots of them out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm relating is just, uh, a handful of modern face-to-face revelations, but there have been others that you have researched yourself. Um,
I'll shut up now. go back to go back to the Reddit question, but I just had to get that one because I was so curious.
Well, thank you for those questions, James. Fantastic questions. Why you're so good at what you do. And Kirk, thank you for sharing all of that with us.